In talking with Doug Schoen and Ed Rollins and David Keene, the head of the NRA, one of the things that is being avoided in the national liberal media by the left-wing politicians who are adamant about rolling back our Second Amendment rights, and that is that the recent mass shootings have a common denominator. It is mental illness. Still, eastern states are focusing almost relentlessly on gun control and trying to make political points as they do so. New York, for example. New York wants to limit the size of magazines to 7 bullets, 7 rounds, from the current restriction of 10. Maryland's governor wants to force prospective gun owners to provide fingerprints to the state police and complete a gun safety course. So we'll just call that fingerprints and gun safety. And Delaware's Attorney General, Beau Biden, son of the Vice President, wants a ban on semi-automatic weapons and expanded background checks, among other things. And would any of these have prevented the Newtown shooting? The answer is, emphatically and curiously, not at all. Gunman Adam Lanza used a military-style AR-15 rifle that he stole from his mother. Under Maryland's proposal, we'd have his mother's fingerprints on file, and she and everyone else would still be dead. Under New York's law, the outcome likely would have been the same. Lanza fired about 150 rounds during his massacre, rapidly changing clips, sometimes firing only half of the magazine's rounds. And Connecticut already has an assault weapons ban. The type of gun used was not covered by that ban. So we have to ask ourselves, why don't these politicians, intent on stripping our Second Amendment rights, just simply go all the way? You know, this president always likes to, well, he likes to do redistribution. He likes to talk about fairness. Why leave it just at the First Amendment? I want to put this in some context, if I may. There were 12,664 murders in 2011. Half of those murders, 49% of them, 49% were handguns. But the focus, as you have noted, is on, quote unquote, assault weapons, rifles. Now, that gets kind of peculiar because rifles, all kinds of rifles, not just so-called assault weapons, accounted for only, are you ready? 2.5% of those murders. 2.5%. Maybe we should ban hammers and clubs. What do you think? Hammers and clubs actually accounted for 4% of all the murders, about twice as many as rifles. I'm talking about hammers and clubs. I mean, if we throw in hands and fists and feet, those accounted for 6%. 6% of all murders. In all, rifles were used to kill 323 people. 323 people in 2011. And now that's outrageous. So shouldn't we also be outraged about another number of murders and deaths? Why isn't this White House putting together a task force to talk about the record 349 military suicides last year? 349. There's no task force on that issue. And in the president's hometown, 506 murders last year. In Chicago, most of those with handguns. In a city with some of the toughest gun control laws in the country. The president has yet to mention this number, which dwarfs the number killed by rifles. President Obama today insisted that this is not about the Second Amendment. Listen.
The issue here is not whether or not we believe in the Second Amendment. The issue is, are there some sensible steps that we can take to make sure that somebody like the individual in Newtown can't walk into a school?
Well, he actually said that. The president's so committed to constraining or dismissing outright our Second Amendment rights, it makes you wonder why he's not ridding the Constitution of the First Amendment as well. Give it assembly, free expression, freedom of religion, at least the right to assemble, then implement a curfew, shut down the sale of liquor and drugs. Why don't we close down all the bars and nightclubs, get people off our mean streets in the late hours all across America? Now, that might have economic consequences, mightn't it? You've got to wonder why the president doesn't double down in his assault on the Constitution, taking on not only the Second, but the First Amendment, the Fourth, the 14th. But there may be a reason that he's begun with the Second Amendment. Without our rights under the Second Amendment, removing the rest of our Bill of Rights would be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Let's hope everyone understands the priorities of the left here and the reason they're beginning their efforts to roll back our Second Amendment rights.